guys, today we are going to finish your stories and have it ready for publication next week. If you look in Google Classroom, you'll see the title for today is Writing a Headline. Before we get to that part, the first thing I want you to do is go back to Lesson 6 and see if I have any suggestions that I need for you to accept or change. Make any changes there that I suggest, resolve any conflicts, and then resubmit that so that I will be ready to put it in the program that I use to publish. Then I want you to watch this video that I'm making right now. And in it, we are going to look at this Google slide presentation about how to write headlines. So if you give it just a minute. Okay. So writing headlines. Headlines are very important. Just like the titles of papers, readers should show what the story will cover while you also tantalize or draw their attention. The first thing the reader is going to look at is the visual that goes with your story, which some of you, we have photographs like the story about Miss Smith. The Corona story, we have charts that we've made from the Google survey we did. And some of the others I've found clip art or photos that we can use that were free public domain. So the first thing people are going to do is look at that picture, but after that, they're going to read your headline. And if it's boring, they're going to move on. So you want to make sure you have a good headline. So here's something that you want to make sure you don't do. You do not want your headlines to be ambiguous. Do you know what that means? Well, I'm going to tell you. Confusing. You don't want your headlines to be confusing or have implied meanings that could be good or bad. Here are some examples. Number 1, kids make nutritious snacks. Are they saying that kids are really good in the kitchen and that they are capable of making good cooking, baking good nutritious snacks? Or are we talking about cannibalism? I hope not. Number 2, 250,000 Chinese live on water. Are the authors of this saying that Chinese people live close to the water? Or are they saying the only thing they have to eat or drink is water? This one's funny. Grandmother of 8 makes a hole-in-one. I know lots of us have been getting on our parents' nerves just a little bit at home, but I hope that this grandmother did not truly make a hole in one of her grandkids. I hope that she's really good at golf. Number 4, hospital sued by 7-foot doctors. Were there 7 doctors who work on people's feet that sued the hospital, or were they sued by really tall doctors? Man gets 8 months in violin case. Ooh. Are they saying this man lived in a violin case for 8 months, or that he got in trouble and it was related to a violin case and so he got 8 months in jail? It's ambiguous. And my next one, this one's funny. Police help dog bite victim. Did they help the dog bite someone, or did they help someone who was bitten by a dog? So do not make your headlines ambiguous. You don't want to confuse your readers. It is a good idea to use figurative language in your headline. Similes and metaphors, of course, you all know what those are when you compare something and say it is something or is like something. Personification, of course, when you give non-human things human qualities. Oxymoron, when you take 2 words that are opposites and use them together. And literally, it makes no sense, but it creates a dramatic effect. And then, of course, alliteration, when you repeat one sound at the beginning of words over and over. So let's look at these on the right. The first one, our amateur expert speaks out. Well, how can you be an amateur and an expert? That's an oxymoron, but it creates a dramatic effect and people want to read it. Number 2, Japan's full body tattoos, a dying art. That one is actually a pun, and I don't have that on the side, so I'm going to add that over here. Because is it dying, like it's fading out, or is it referring to the dye that's in the tattoo? So it draws your attention. Giant pothole swallows car in Germany. Definitely got my attention. A pothole is not human, so it can't swallow anything, so it would have to be personification. New legislation is a minefield for employers. Well, I'm already curious about this one because minefields sound dangerous. And so it's a more interesting way of saying that the new legislation is a dangerous thing for employers. So they used a metaphor. It's a minefield. The new rules are. Number 5, this is one of my favorites. Swiss sensation soars to win. I would probably actually say Swiss sensation soars to success. And of course, this is alliteration. And number 6, a bad food bug hits Britain. You've got the repeating of the B, so that's alliteration. Food bug, which is a sickness, is not a person, so it couldn't hit something. So you've got some personification. But they're also calling the sickness a bug. So they're saying, using a metaphor there. So just some good examples of headlines that were not ambiguous, but used some figurative language. Now, there are some errors in the ones that are on this slide. Real quickly, these are some examples of what not to do. The first one said, the president says that the war is inevitable. That one is too long and it's kind of clumsy. You could make it shorter by just saying, president says war is inevitable. 3 people die in fatal car accident. Kind of long. It's also redundant because if you die, that means it's fatal. So you could say 3 people die in car accident. Yesterday, new decisions were made about exams. Pretty long. You want to keep it short. You can tell us when in the story. So you could just say, new decisions made about exams. This one's really confusing. With a why no closer, 2 boys, 6 and 2 burial. Confusing. I'm assuming that there were 2 boys and this is their ages. They died and they're not sure why. So maybe you could just say 2 boys died mysteriously. I would certainly want to read about it. Under pressure from boss. Who's under pressure from their boss? Are teachers under pressure from their boss? Are factory workers? So you need more information there. So you can read through these, but all of these have errors. They either need more information or they're too long. And like number 11, Farmer Bob dies in his house after shooting. It's long. You would never say Farmer Bob. You never use someone's first name in a headline. So you'd probably just say Farmer dies in shooting. And of course, number 12 is ambiguous. Include children when baking cookies. Should you let them help or are they an ingredient? So just some fun with those. Now, just some helpful hints. Think about the most interesting part of your story because your headline should really tell about that part. Your headline should be short, and it should tell what the story is mainly about. Use figurative language if possible to make it interesting. Make sure your headline is not ambiguous or confusing, and make sure you are not repetitive in your headline. You don't want to bore your reader. So here are some examples from last semester or last session of headlines that were in the newsletter. The story about Moore becoming a middle school, the headline was "No More 5th Graders at Moore." Another student wrote about district firewalls and how they blocked websites. District firewalls keep students safe. An editorial, "Bring back ice cream at lunch." Another editorial, "YouTube censorship too much." This one was a feature, "Does coffee stunt growth?" Because that's what her story was about. She answers that question. This was a feature, "Disney Plus, a great option for streaming." And then, of course, the last page, Mr. Welch loses a bet. If you saw it, you saw his sad face when he had to wear the LSU bling from students who made a bet with him, and of course he lost. So use these tips and you will go back. If I compare, okay. You will go back, to the document writing a headline. You will put your headline on this document. You'll just type it right here under where it says my headline. And when you are finished with that, you will turn it in. And there are brain teasers for you to enjoy. So have a great day, finish up, and I will see you next week.